What is up, everyone? Welcome back. We got another great episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show for you guys tonight. We're going over the start-sit charts for week 2. We're going to try and get through every game there. I did post the order that we're going to go in the game. If you could save your questions for the end of the video, that's when we'll kind of answer all the questions. I'm going to get this one out of the way real quick. Harris coming in hot with the James Robinson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Marquise Brown, or A.J. Dillon non-PPR. Essentially, you got to ask who's got the best chance for a touchdown. I think it's A.J. Dillon in a game against the Bears where the Packers are favored to win by like 9 points. I think you could see A.J. Dillon probably approach 15 touches, maybe 80 to 100 yards total, and probably a good touchdown. So I'm starting A.J. Dillon in a PPR league. But I did want to also mention, too, if you want to follow the start-sit charts online, there's a link in the description below. I did post fantasy position or fantasy points allowed by position, but it's only week 1, so it's nothing too crazy. We'll look at that along the way as the season progresses. And then check out the waiver wire report, too, if you have not checked out your waivers yet. At the top of the page, I do have the projected team totals. I'm going to look at the Vegas odds, and I'll update this later tonight, so that's all fresh here. But essentially, teams in the green here, those are the ones that are likely to win and put up the most points. Teams in the red here, not going to do as well this weekend. So let's kick it off here with our Thursday night football fiesta here. The Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs favored to win by about 3.5, a 54 total in this one over under. These two teams have played each other pretty intensely in the past, and it's going to make for good TV. I think this is a great Thursday night football game. You're starting Justin Herbert. You're starting Patrick Mahomes. Austin Eckler should bounce back. I know his snaps and his usage wasn't elite week 1, but it's also first game of the year. I don't want to get too much into it. With Keenan Allen out, the practice reports here did list Keenan Allen out already here, so not practicing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He's out. They also ruled out the backup tight end Donald Parham, and it looks like star cornerback J.C. Jackson back-to-back limited, so there's a chance he plays tomorrow. But other than that, no Keenan Allen means you're going to start Mike Williams. I know he dudded last week, but that's what you get with Mike Williams. Sometimes it's a frustrating roller coaster. You don't want to miss it. He had a big game against the Chiefs last year. Gerald Everett, I think he's a popular tight end 1 streaming option this week. He did catch a touchdown last week. Again, no backup tight end Donald Parham. They might have Trey McKitty in there a little bit, but I think Everett, probably that number 2 or number 3 target in the offense tomorrow night. He's worth a streamer. And then Josh Palmer, he's a popular waiver wire ad this week. I think he could be in for a nice game here. I know Herbert really spread the ball around last week. Nobody had more than 4 targets, so it's very interesting. And I think Palmer, if you're in a 12-team league and you need a wide receiver 3 flex, I think Palmer is interesting. And even if you're like nervous about it, you should still add Josh Palmer. I mean, we're talking about a veteran receiver here in Keenan Allen with a hamstring. I don't like the sound of that here. So if that hamstring continues to linger, Palmer could be a guy that we're looking at more often down the line here. So I like stashing Palmer. Maybe don't play him, but we'll watch him and see if he takes control of the opportunity. Probably not going to use the Chargers defense. I'll note that the Chargers defense the next few weeks, they have a nice schedule. They play Jacksonville, Houston, and I think Cleveland. So nice games coming up for these guys. And then leave all these guys on the bench here. We're not super excited to get these guys in there. DeAndre Carter did catch a touchdown last week. We'll see how many opportunities he gets this week. On the Chiefs side here, you're starting Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a running back too. The Chargers do give up a decent amount of rushing yards. And of course, he did get the red zone touches last week through the air. You're starting Juju Smith-Schuster. I do want to note, though, the Chargers slot corner really shut down Hunter Renfrow last week. And I think it's Bryce Callahan in the slot there for the Chargers, the former Bronco. He really, like Derek Carr targeting Hunter Renfrow was not great last week. So if Juju Smith-Schuster is primarily in the slot, it could be just a temporary expectations game, but I'm still going to start him. You're starting Kelsey. I have Marquez Valdez-Scantling listed as a flex. Basically, all the receivers popped off last week except MBS. Maybe he gets in this week here. So he's an interesting streaming option. Probably don't want to start either defense in this one. Again, 54 implied total. And then we're going to continue to watch the backups here. McKinnon, Pacheco, we'll see, the number 2, number 3 running back rotation. And then Mecole Hardman, he could be a flex. He did catch a touchdown last week. And then Sky Moore, I just don't think he's ready to be in our lineup. So super fun game. Chiefs, Chargers, enjoy it. This one, they gave us a really good Thursday night game for week 2. Let me double back and look at some of these questions here. Should I trade Pittman for Debo? No, I want the Pittman side of that. That's how I've been all summer. I've been drafting Michael Pittman Jr. over Debo. I think week 1, man, you like we saw a glimpse of what Michael Pittman Jr. could be. He's going to be the clear go-to target for Matt Ryan. I like the passing. He's going to dominate the passing touches, the targets, passing volume, everything. So I'm a little bit more excited than I am for Pittman than I am for Debo. Good evening to Justin, everybody else in the chat room. And yeah, the Thursday night football game, it's going to be a popcorn game for us. And hey, we hit one. That always feels good. So thank you for asking the questions, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. Yep. AJ Dillon show, baby. It's going to be a good game for AJ Dillon and the Packers. I think Aaron Jones and Dillon will both eat on Sunday night. I think that's going to be the focus here. Curtis Samuel or Michael Carter, PPR. Um, that's a good question. Curtis Samuel's got a really good matchup coming up against the Detroit Lions. He was the hot waiver wire ad of the week, I think, for flex players. And then Michael Carter, man, he's got a tough matchup going up against the Cleveland Browns, but he was the clear, touches leader. He dominated he didn't dominate the snaps, but he led the team in running back snaps, carries, targets. So he has a really safe floor. I think if you want to go with Carter, he is the safe play. But I think Curtis Samuel is a viable option. I mean, 11 targets, 4 carries last week. Like they're probably going to try and give him the ball. A combined 10 to 12 total targets and carries, I think is ideal for Samuel. But I'm going to lean with Michael Carter, full PPR. Good evening to Ryan. Kareem Hunt, Penny, or Chase Edmonds, non-PPR. I'll go with Kareem Hunt because he's got a juicy matchup against the New York Jets. And yeah, big Michael Pittman love. Michael Pittman was one of my favorite receivers all draft. So if you followed us all summer here, you probably ended up with Pittman Jr. And man, I was thinking about this question, Ryan, because you asked me last week before the Thursday night game, Knox or Kmet, and I said Knox. And he goes out and gets 1.5, but then Cole Kmet gets the 0. So I'm like, okay, we got one right. I think this week Knox against the Titans, Kmet against the Packers. Which team's going to throw the ball more? It's going to be the Bills. I think you could see some more opportunities for Knox. And with Kmet just getting a 0-1 target, that concerns me. I think I want to let Kmet prove it. I'm going to probably roll with Dawson Knox one more time here. Hopefully he gets in the end zone. Taysom Hill with the waiver wire pickup. Only in super deep leagues, I don't think we're ever going to feel comfortable starting him. I mean, if he doesn't get the touchdown run, what are we really looking at here? So I want one more week of data. I think you can stash him for the week if that's how you want to play it. He's worth a stash, but we're not going to be looking to start him anytime soon. I actually like the tight end over there. Juwan Johnson is actually a really good play at tight end. So I think he's a guy that I'm going to be looking at down the line here in a little bit. No, not yet. Not yet. I mean, Levy Smith's been talking about Dameon Pierce all week. Saying, yeah, we need to get him more touches. And I think it's, again, week 1, new head coach. He's just playing his veteran players and guys that he trusts. It was a tight, close game. He knows he should have played Dameon Pierce more. So maybe we don't see a big Dameon Pierce line this week, but they do play the Bears next week. So I'm excited about that opportunity. So I'm not going to panic right now. He's probably not going to have a great game this week. He might get more opportunities and carries, which would be a step forward. But I think I'm not going to be able to judge him until after week 3 of the Bears game. And Lazard, St. Brown, or Gabe Davis. Non-PPR. I mean, the guy with the safest floor is St. Brown, but I mean, he scored a touchdown last week. He's probably going to be in that 70 to 80 yards per game. But if you want the home run, you're going for Gabe Davis against the Titans. I think that's the play. So I'd rank them Gabe, Brown, Lazard. Do I start Dillon or Henderson this week? Whew, that's a tough question. I mean, part of me, I think Dillon's the safer call. But last week, man, they really gave Henderson the bulk of the carries. There's no Kyron Williams. Cam Akers hasn't looked great. And we're expecting the Rams to look better this week. So, I mean, I think Henderson's probably the guy that's projected more points right now. I think he does have the higher ceiling. He's not really in a 50-50 committee with Akers like Dillon is with Jones. So I think the smart play is Henderson. But honestly, man, they're both really strong plays. I think Henderson, though, he's got that top 10, top 12 potential. And Dillon's probably locked into like a top 15, 20 running back. So Pitts or Knox. You got to roll with Pitts. You drafted him high. You got to roll with Pitts. And then Hunt or St. Brown. I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt just because it's a running back position on PPR league. But anyways, I'm going to take it easy on the questions here. Let's cover this Jets and Browns game here. Let me click that button. We got the New York Jets at the Cleveland Browns here. Browns favored to win by 6.5. A low score of only 40.5 implied in this one. This one's a pretty simple one. I actually think both defenses are pretty good. The Jets held the Ravens in check for most of the day, and it kind of got blown open after that Rashad Bateman bomb. But for the most part, the Jets held the Ravens offense in check. Now, what does that mean for the Browns? Browns are just going to run the shit out of the ball. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, I think both guys are viable starts. Maybe 20, 25 carries for Nick Chubb, maybe, 12 to 15 for Kareem Hunt. I love both guys here. I think you're trying to get these two in your lineup for sure. Amari Cooper, I have listed here as a flex, but I think the way that I'm going to probably go about the Browns, as long as Jacoby Brissett's quarterback, in games where they're heavily favored, especially in a game like the Jets, probably not going to see a high passing volume from Jacoby Brissett. We might even only see him throw the ball 18, 20 times in this game. I don't think we're expecting a huge air assault in this game. So Cooper, I mean, I'm probably going to shy away from him and start sit questions this week. Again, he didn't play well last week. Not a lot of targets, not a lot of opportunities. Start that Browns D, and then we're going to leave Brissett on the bench. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones is worth a speculative add. Not saying to start him. Let's see more data. But he's definitely, 11 targets last week was impressive. And then Njoku, I'm still holding on to hope here. He played well in the snaps. He blocked a lot. He was on the field a lot. We just need the targets to fall his way. Harrison Bryant actually had more targets last week. On the Jets side of things here, I do think Elijah Moore can still be a wide receiver 3 flex. I'd rather play Elijah Moore than Amari Cooper. Joe Flacco threw the ball like 58 times last week, so probably another heavy passing volume day as the Jets are trying to play keep up from the running game. And then at the flex position, I think Michael Carter, in a full PPR, he's almost he's a RB2. I should probably move him up here. I think he's a must start in PPR leagues. Breece Hall is more of the flex play. He had the receiving volume last week that we're looking for, but other than that, I don't know if it's going to happen this week. Corey Davis, he did lead the team last week in receiving yards, and I think in receptions and targets. So he's a guy that could probably be picked up off the waiver wire. I'm not very inspired. I think you're starting Michael Carter. He's the best play on the Jets. Elijah Moore, probably the second best play. Say no to drugs with the Jets defense. Joe Flacco, Garrett Wilson. Keep an eye on Tyler Conklin. If you need a tight end off the waiver wire, he dominated the tight end snaps last week. 7 targets. I think he caught 4 for maybe like 18 yards. So low yardage, but he does get the touchdown. Braxton Berrios there as well. Let me move on to the Washington Command. I'm excited about this game. The Commanders at the Lions. Lions favored to win by 2.5. 48.5 in this one. I think this could be a really fun, high-scoring game. You have the Commanders coming out last week against the Jags, throwing for 4 touchdowns. Carson Wentz over 300 yards. Antonio Gibson featured as a passer. You want players in this game this week. Starting with both quarterbacks, I actually think Carson Wentz could be a fringe top 10, top 12 quarterback play. I think he's an ideal QB2 for Superflex leagues. And if you lost Dak Prescott last week, Carson Wentz should have been the guy that you picked up off the waiver wire. He's going to have the passing volume. I think last year they threw the ball 35 to 40 times per game with Taylor Heineke. So that's pretty good volume for a quarterback here who's got some pretty nice weapons. All of a sudden, this Washington Commanders team looks pretty fruitful. You're starting Antonio Gibson. You're going to continue to start Terry McLaurin. I think Logan Thomas was a popular tight end waiver wire ad this week. I'm starting him in a league that I punted at tight end in the draft. And then you got these flex players, J.D. McKissick in a PPR league, maybe 8 to 10 points. And especially if this game's a high-scoring game, you might see more McKissick involved. Curtis Samuel, waiver wire ad of the week probably here. He had 11 targets, 4 carries last week. I'm actually thinking very good things with Curtis Samuel. You probably want to get him in there as a wide receiver 3 flex in full PPR. He's more of a full PPR play because of his low target volume, or his high target volume, low yardage targets here. And then Jahan Dotson, he's kind of the ultimate sleeper here, but he looked really good. He caught 2 touchdowns last week in his first game. Maybe the Commanders defense, I don't know if I trust it. And then just a backup tight end here. On the Lions side, DeAndre Swift, what was up with him? He missed practice today. Did not practice with an ankle injury. So we'll monitor this. If he misses practice tomorrow, I'll be a little bit more concerned. But keep an eye on this one. They did call up Justin Jackson from the practice squad too. So if he plays, you're playing him obviously, but we'll have to monitor his ankle reports. You're starting Amon-Ra St. Brown. In full PPR leagues, TJ Hawkinson still a top 10 tight end option. DJ Chark came through last week. If he's still on your waiver wire, please go pick him up. I think he had 8 targets, which was second on the team. So DJ Chark looking pretty good. And then Jamal Williams is just kind of the ultimate dirty RB2. He could get a touchdown. He's going to get carries and some catches. He should be rostered for sure. Say no to the Lions defense. And then keep an eye on Josh Reynolds here. Before I get to the Bucks and the Saints, let me check the comment section real quick here. Where did we leave off? Kareem Hunt or Gabe Davis, non-PPR. I'm trying to click on the question here. Hunt or Gabe Davis? So I think the most exciting play is probably Gabe Davis. I mean, I play in a non-PPR league, and I start Gabe Davis over potential other running backs. So to me, again, it's Buffalo at home against the Titans. We just saw uh, two big touchdowns led up by the Giants defense or by the Titans defense last week to the Giants. So I think Gabe Davis has the higher ceiling here. Kareem Hunt did just score two touchdowns. I think it's going to be rare for him to score another two in this one. So maybe he scores one. I think both guys are pretty good plays either way. But I'm going to go with Gabe Davis. I don't like the Titans defense. But let's get back into this one. The Buccaneers and the Saints, Tampa Bay favored to win by a field goal, about 45.5. So a lower implied total. We're leaning towards the defenses here. Tom Brady is startable in 10-team, 12-team leagues as a first QB. Jameis Winston, more of a super flex QB. You're starting Leonard Fournette. He looked great last week. Remember when he was 260 pounds? That's kind of a joke now. Alvin Kamara, I think he missed practice today. Let me double check this. Alvin Kamara here, limited practice with the rib, so he gets limited and he should be okay. So you're starting Fournette, you're starting Kamara. You got to start Mike Evans. I know his numbers have not been great against the Saints the last few years. Someone tweeted out some good numbers here. So this is Mike Evans' last 5 games versus the Saints cornerback Marshawn Lattimore. 1 for 14, 2 for 48 and a touchdown, 1 for 3 and a touchdown, 4 for 64, 1 for 2 and a touchdown. So touchdowns are there, but not a huge volume day coming from Mike Evans likely here. But I still think you got to leave him in your lineup. Michael Thomas entering the wide receiver 2 territory. Again, he looked really good at the end of the game. Continue to use Michael Thomas. Jarvis Landry looked really good, though. So if he's still on your waiver wire, pick up Jarvis Landry, especially in full PPR leagues. I put Taysom Hill here. I'm kind of thinking I'm probably going to move him to the bench. I can't honestly recommend starting Taysom Hill. I think he could be in for a fun day here, but it's week 2. I want more data points on this Taysom Hill usage before I recommend it. So I'm going to probably move him down here to the bench. And then Chris Olave, he actually ran the most routes on the team. If you're desperate for a flex position, he could be a guy in full PPR. Maybe the Saints defense. I think you got to start Julio Jones. I mean, he might even be a wide receiver 3. Again, we talked about Mike Evans and the Marshawn Lattimore duo here. Julio could lead the team in targets and in production this week. And then you have Russell Gage. In a full PPR league, I'm okay with Russell Gage here. Chris Godwin's out. Gage could be busy in the slot. I think you start the Bucs D, maybe the Saints D. If you have questions on that, let me know. And then keep an eye on Rachaad White. He should be picked up in deeper leagues here. Put him on the bench. If anything happens to Fournette, you got something nice. And then again, tight ends, Juwan Johnson. He led the team in total snaps last week. He's a really good pass catching weapon, and he improved in his blocking this summer. He's going to be on the field a lot. He's actually their true number 1 tight end. He had 6 targets last week, 2 for 45 through the air, and just a big body elite receiver. Think like Darren Waller type. So keep an eye on him. I think he could have a nice game here and be on the waiver wires next week. Panthers and Giants, will be quick about this one. You're starting Saquon Barkley. You're starting Christian McCaffrey. You're starting DJ Moore. Baker Mayfield and Daniel Jones are fine, okay QBs in super flex leagues. And then the flex questions I've been getting a lot are Sterling Shepard or Robbie Anderson. I personally don't trust these guys. I wouldn't recommend throwing them out there. I kind of want to see, again, more data points for these guys. If they hit again, all of a sudden they enter our circle of trust here. But both guys had long touchdowns last week. Worth adding on your bench and seeing what happens. And because this game's a low-scoring game, only 43 implied, I think the Giants' defense is more startable than the Panthers, but both can be used in a pinch. And then we got to monitor this backup receiver role here. Wan'Dale Robinson, questionable. Kenny Golladay. Tony, hopefully he gets on the field more, but Richie James played a lot too. So we're monitoring that. But just stick to the studs here. Barkley, CMC, DJ Moore, and then we'll figure out some more data points for week 3. Moving on to the New England Patriots and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think both defenses are viable starts in this one. I have Najee Harris not even listed on here. I'm probably going to move him up to the RB2 spot. When I filled these out, I didn't think he was going to play. All of a sudden, he says he's going to play. So Najee Harris, if you have him, you probably got to play him just based on volume alone. I'm nervous about that foot injury. I almost wish he would just take the week off so that he could be ready for the future weeks. But if you have Najee Harris, you'd have to have like a really good option behind him. Like say you had like an Antonio Gibson or AJ Dillon or something like that. Then I might start him over Najee Harris. So I'll take some Najee Harris questions, I'm sure. Deontay Johnson, you're going to continue to roll him out. Pat Freiermuth, top 10, top 12 tight end, I think, this week. And then the options here on the flex, Chase Claypool. just a kind of a high volume PPR play. Jalen Warren would be interesting if Najee Harris does sit, but I'm going to move him down. I'm going to put Najee back up to RB2. Start the Steelers defense, man. They look pretty damn good. I know TJ Watt's not there, but they held the Bengals in check for most of the day, and then we'll monitor these guys here on the bench. On the Patriots side of things, I really can't recommend starting Patriots. I think Damian Harris is fine as a low end RB2. No Ty Montgomery. He's on IR now, so you might see more work for Harris and Stevenson as a pass catcher. So a low end RB2 flex play. He's best in standard leagues. No Mac Jones, not even in super flex for me, not against this defense. Jacoby Myers could be busy in full PPR, but that's about it. I think you're okay starting the Patriots defense. And then, yeah, let's just monitor this backfield. Damian Harris from Andre Stevenson with no Tymo. We'll see what happens, but that's enough time on that game. Let me double check the comments here. What do we got? What do we got here? Who do you think I can get for Kirk Cousins in a trade at wide receiver in a PPR league? So Kirk Cousins, who do you think I can get for Kirk Cousins in a trade at wide receiver in a PPR league? So Kirk Cousins, realistically, we should view Kirk as like a fringe top 10, top 12 QB. Which, if you kind of think about the QBs as a whole, there's 5 or 6 like elite ones, and then you have that kind of middle tier of like your Joe Burrows, your Tom Brady's, it's kind of in that range there. So to me, Kirk Cousins is kind of equal to like a wide receiver 3. Like, I mean, if you could trade Kirk Cousins for like a Christian Kirk, who we have on the screen here, like that's kind of what you're looking for. You're looking for a guy who can be a wide receiver 3 flex play for you. If I had more names to think here, maybe Rashad Bateman, maybe a Drake London. You're just looking for someone that you can kind of fill in there as your flex. You can maybe see if the Allen Robinson owner has had enough already through 1 week, something like that. Taysom is not their starting tight end. Like Juwan Johnson dominated the snaps last week, but they're going to use him in a variety of ways. Like they want to do some wildcat stuff. They want to get him some carries. They want to get him some catches, some even maybe a throw or two this week. For me, he's worth a pickup. I don't think we're going to start him in any fantasy leagues just yet. We need more data on that one. But it is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, so they might pull some tricks out of their bag for this one. 10-team PPR flex, Terry or Juju. So that's a tough one. And again, I don't know if you were here, Matt, earlier when I mentioned last week, the Chargers slot corner, Bryce Callahan, he like shut down Hunter Renfrow. Derek Carr was he had like a 9 QBR rating targeting Hunter Renfrow last week in the slot. Kind of blanketed him. So that makes me a little hesitant for Juju Smith-Schuster. I know it's going to be a fun game tomorrow night, but a lot of points in that one as well. But with Terry going up against the Detroit Lions, I mean, we saw what A.J. Brown did to that team last week. We should expect the Commanders to kind of have some fun offensively, and Terry did score on that big touchdown too. So I think I'm going to lean with Terry. Juju does have probably a safer, higher floor of like 8 to 10 points, but in fantasy, I'm going to go for that big game here. So I think I go with Terry. Should I do Cousins for Higgins? The team has Higgins, just lost Dak Prescott. Yes, go for Higgins. That's the one. That's the one, Harris. You want T Higgins? Go do it. That's a hell of a deal. I'm assuming you have a good QB ahead of Cousins too. So cashing in Cousins for Higgins, my friend, you're getting a potential top 15 wide receiver there. So I like that a lot for you. Let's go over the Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jags. Colts coming off that embarrassing tie against the Houston Texans. They're favored to win by 4 on the road here, 46 implied. As far as must starts in this one, it's Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman Jr. on the Colts side. Like, I love those guys. Like Taylor, of course, the RB1, RB2 overall. Michael Pittman Jr., I think he's crashing the party as a top 5, top 10 wide receiver this year. So he is must start at this point. On the Jag side, I think Christian Kirk's like the only must start in this. I think in full PPR, you want Kirk in your lineup. He did have 12 targets last week, 6 for over 100 yards. So I like that to continue. And then I'm thinking James Robinson is probably the guy here as the next best offensive fantasy asset. So if you were weak at running back, I think you can responsibly put him in there as RB2. I do like Evan Ingram as a tight end streamer. I like Travis Etienne as like a low end RB2 flex play in full PPR only. And then Zay Jones, he should be picked up off waivers. He's the guy you want to put on the end of your bench. He did have a nice game. I think he ended up with 6 catches for I can't remember how many yards, but he did have a nice game. And I would say Zay Jones is a better play than Marvin Jones the rest of the season. And then Lawrence, Matt Ryan, these guys are super flex QB2s. Naheem Hines, he's, I mean, a flex play in PPR leagues and could be an RB2 for you if you need it. Probably starting that Colts defense, say no to the Jags, and then we'll monitor these guys down here. Everyone thought Mo Ali Cox was going to be the number one tight end. But last week it was Kylan Granson who actually ran more routes and got more snaps last week, and he had more targets, more yardage, more catches. Someone to keep an eye on, Kylan Granson, second-year tight end for the Colts. Let's move on to the Dolphins and the Ravens. I'm excited about this one. Maybe not so much for fantasy, but just for like this is a damn good game of like two, at least wild card potential football teams here. These are playoff teams here, so we're getting an early glimpse at some good ball teams. On the Ravens side, they're favored to win by 3.5 at home, 43.5 total implied. The must starts here, of course, you're starting Lamar, you're starting Mark Andrews. Rashad Bateman, though, I mean, if he doesn't catch that bomb touchdown at the end of last week, like we would have turned up a 1 catch for 4 yard performance. So I'm hesitant here. I think the Dolphins have a really good secondary. To me, I mean, I'm in a league where I'm actually I'm benching Rashad Bateman this week to start Darrell Henderson over him. So I don't think he's a must start. I think he's more of a flex play. Let me know if you have questions on Rashad Bateman. Start that Ravens defense, and we'll leave all these guys here on the bench. We'll watch J.K. Dobbins. Even if he plays, I'm hesitant to get him in there. First game back from a serious knee injury. I'd like to monitor and see what happens. On the Dolphins side, pretty simple. Tua is a QB2 in Superflex leagues. Chase Edmonds, a solid RB2 in PPR leagues. And then you're starting Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Format of the league almost irrelevant. I guess in a standard league, I'm a little bit more less excited about Waddle. I think Tyreek Hill's the guy here. But either way, those are the 4 guys for the Dolphins. You can maybe start the Dolphins defense if you're in a pinch. And then we'll monitor these guys here. We're not touching Gesicki. Mike Gesicki probably shouldn't be owned. If you have him on your roster, I would look towards another tight end. But let's move on here. Those were all the noon games, the early games here. Let me check my comments here, see what we got brewing down here. Yeah, Harris is getting T. Higgins. That's freaking awesome. They also have Tom Brady. Interesting. Mike Williams or Jalen Waddle, half PPR. Half PPR, I'm going Mike Williams. If it was full PPR, I'd consider Jalen Waddle because he has a safer floor probably. But tomorrow night, man, I mean, you want Mike Williams. And I want to show you guys. I was looking at FF Today earlier today, and they have where was it? It's called Player History Week 2. So this is fftoday.com. You click on Player History, and this is what this is the Chiefs, and you can click on a game too, and it'll tell you all the previous scores from those games. I mean, Justin Herbert in 4 games, he's got over 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 ints, 3 rushing touchdowns against the Chiefs. Like he's been pretty baller. And then Mike Williams here. We can look at his game logs the last few games. So he did go 3 for 49 against them in let's see, in December of last year, but in September, 7 for 122 and 2 touchdowns. In January of 2021, 6 for 108 and a touchdown. So 2 of his last 3 games have been dynamite. 3 for 49, that's kind of his floor. No Keenan Allen. I think you want to get Big Mike in there. Should we be comfortable playing Bateman? And we just kind of talked about the Ravens here. I'm hesitant with Rashad Bateman. Again, if he doesn't catch that 55-yard touchdown, we're looking at 1 catch for 4 yards. So you'd have to have, you need a good depth piece to start over Bateman. For me and Andrew here, we share a standard team, standard keeper team. And we are starting Darrell Henderson over Rashad Bateman as our flex play. So like you have to have, if you have a really good play and you want to get him in over Bateman, I think you got to do it. Let's get 1 more week of data here. Again, it's a tough matchup, a low scoring game. Make a smart decision here. I'm gonna monitor the Ravens offense for a little bit here. Trade Javonte for Debo. That one depends on your depth. Are you good at running back? Like, is he your RB3? I would probably have to include a wide receiver too. In this case, like I want to keep Javonte, man. Like that usage as a passing weapon was pretty amazing. And you got to expect him to get more than 7 carries going forward. I'm going to hold on to Javonte. I think the Broncos offense excites me more than the 49ers offense. At this point, the 49ers could get more exciting, but I'm going to go with Javonte Williams here. How confident should we be if we own Allen Lazard? I think with Allen Lazard, I think the good thing is like no receiver last week popped off. So like nothing like change Lazard's status with the team. Like he's Rodgers' #1 target. He's good to see him practicing again today here. So he's probably going to play. I mean, he got limited in today. That's on the right track after no practices the last 2 weeks. So it's just a big, it's going to be the big reveal. Like, what do we ultimately have in Allen Lazard? I mean, he's probably going to be, like a wide receiver 3 flex play. You're probably going to see him maybe get 6 to 8 targets, maybe 4 or 5 catches. And then the kicker is going to be the touchdown. But I think he's probably got a safe floor here. And to me, again, he's still the clear guy for Aaron Rodgers. So as far as confidence go, if he's out there, it is the Chicago Bears too. I'd probably rather play Lazard than Rashad Bateman. That's kind of where I have Allen Lazard. AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones, Metcalf, Hunt, or Schultz, half PPR. I'm going AJ Dillon. 10-team PPR, need to fill RB2 and a flex. ETN, Dillon, Edmonds, Lamb, Hollywood, Robinson. I've been getting a ton of CD Lamb questions, and I wanted to show you. Last year, the Dallas Cowboys played the Minnesota Vikings October 31st last year. Cooper Rush started this game, puts up 20 points for the Cowboys, 24-40 as a passer, 325, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, sacked 3 times, added 2 yards on the ground, whatever, but 325 yards in a start here has my attention. And you look at the weapons, Amari Cooper, 8 for 122 and a touchdown, 13 targets for him. CeeDee Lamb, 6 for 112 and 35, long of 35, 8 total targets in this one. Life might be okay with Cooper Rush here. And the Bengals defense is solid here. I do think CeeDee Lamb's going to get fed, and he's kind of the clear guy here. So I think to fill your RB2 spot, I'm going to play Dillon. So Edmonds is the safe PPR play. If you want your 10 catnip points there, I like him. I'm gonna go with Dillon. I think he's got more upside. And then at the flex, I think I'm gonna go with CeeDee Lamb, man. I mean, we drafted him in the 2nd round for a reason. The game plan is gonna be to make sure CeeDee Lamb gets his volume, because if he doesn't get his volume, I mean, what chance do the Cowboys really have of having a successful day? So I actually think that this could be a potential good thing here. And we can't start Dameon Pierce until further notice. I would like to see some improvement in snap counts, carries, and maybe a couple more targets in week 2, because week 3, so if things improve in week 2 in a tough matchup, like week 3 they play the Bears, and then we can maybe start thinking about Dameon Pierce here. But we'll get back to the questions in a bit. Let me cover the Atlanta Falcons and the LA Rams game here. They're favored to win by 10 points, 47 implied in this one. As far as must starts, you got to go back to the well with Stafford. I think they're going to get things right in this one. He's a fringe top 10, top 12 QB. Darrell Henderson, and if he was on your waiver wire, he was probably the pickup of the week here. Things looked really, really good for him last week. Cam Akers, coming back from that Achilles, did not look great. I think they're going to lean on Henderson early in this game, and they're going to continue to give him touches. He might get upwards of 15 to 20 total opportunities to touch the ball in this game. So he's a steady RB2, has RB1 upside. Cooper Kupp, god damn, he's so good. Cooper Kupp, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, whatever. Tyler Higbee, I liked Higbee's usage last week. He looked pretty good. So to me, he should be picked up. If he's on waiver wire, he should be picked up. He's a top 10, top 12 play. And then Allen Robinson. What do we do here? We had, really high hopes, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 hopes in our lineups. Oh, and then only 2 targets last week. I mean, I totally get it. If you want to wait for him to prove it before we start it, I get it. But if you have Allen Robinson questions, let me know in the comments. I'll see if you can find someone. But with this in mind, like if you could play Allen Lazard, if you could play, someone like I'm thinking of other like PPR, like maybe a Hunter Renfrow, someone, or Curtis. Like I'd play Curtis Samuel over Allen Robinson, someone that can just get you 10, 12 points. Let Robinson prove it on her bench. I'm fine with that approach. Start the Rams defense. We're going to continue to monitor Cam Akers, see what he's up to. Ben Skowronek, the number 3 receiver. I don't think Van Jefferson's going to play, but we'll monitor that. Falcons side, Mariota, only a QB2 in Superflex leagues. Go ahead and start Cordero Patterson. Again, it was supposed to be a tough matchup last week against the Saints, but he rushed for over 100 yards. Same thing on paper here against the Rams, but they're going to get him his touches, so he's at RB2. Drake London. I mean, I'd rather start Drake London over Allen Robinson, even if it is Jalen Ramsey. We saw what Jalen Ramsey did last week. So London entering our good graces here is the potential guy we can depend on as a rookie here. So I like him as a wide receiver 3 flex. You drafted Kyle Pitts in the 3rd or 4th round. I think you got to keep him in there. We'll see what happens. I have good feelings they'll turn around eventually. Say no to Atlanta D. Nobody here on the bench. I'm assuming Damian Williams is not playing in this one. So let's watch to see if Tyler Algier gets called up for that game. Let's cover the Seahawks and the 49ers real quick. 49ers favored to win by 9, 42.5 implied. You drafted Trey Lance as your QB1. You got to keep him in there as your QB1. Last week, it's such an anomaly. Like, they played in literally a hurricane. So I don't know if we learned anything last week, but start Trey Lance, start Debo. Brandon Ayuk can be a wide receiver 3 flex. It's a good matchup against Seattle. George Kittle didn't practice today. We're going to monitor him. It sounds like he's not going to play again this week, but we'll see. We'll find out more information Thursday and Friday. And then the other waiver wire pickup here was Jeff Wilson. So if you needed a running back too, Wilson's a fine play. Start the 49ers defense. You got Jawan Jennings here, Tyrion Davis-Price, and then I should probably list the other running back here, Jordan Mason. So I'm very curious to watch after Jeff Wilson. Is it TDP? Is it Jordan Mason? They did sign Marlon Mack off the practice squad too here. So we'll see what happens with the 49ers. On the Seahawks side here, Geno Smith, QB2 for Superflex option. He's more of a QB3. I think Rashad Penny can be a low-end RB2. He did get the volume last week, but we're expecting, I got to get his name on here. We're expecting Kenneth Walker to play. I'm not sure how much. So I'm okay with Penny for another week here as a low-end RB2. Start Metcalf. The volume was good. The depth per target was bad, but I like the volume here. The 49ers defense secondary is suspect here. Tyler Lockett, kind of an emergency play here. I don't love him as a flex. Kind of want to see what he does a little bit more. Say no to the Seahawks defense, and then we'll leave these guys here on the bench. Before I cover the Bengals and the Cowboys, let me double check my comments here. Who do you think I should target in a non-PPR league for a trade? Who do you think I should target in a non-PPR league for a trade? So non-PPR, you're looking for, to me, like non-PPR just means it's a touchdown league. So, a potential buy low is a guy like T. Higgins. I like Cortland Sutton. Jerry Jeudy got the touchdown last week, but there was 2 or 3 deep shots that Russell Wilson was just off on. And Cortland Sutton could be catching touchdowns very soon here. So I like him as a buy low. Target in a non-PPR league. Nobody here. AJ Dillon, non-PPR, he's a fringe running back 1, I think, going forward. I love him. Alan Lazard, interesting guy too. Non-PPR, Gabe Davis is a lot of fun in non-PPR leagues as well. Other guys in non-PPR, AJ Brown, the price is probably too high for AJ Brown at this point. Let me see if there's any other non-PPR players that I wouldn't mind. The price for CeeDee Lamb is going to be really cheap right now, guys. If you wanted to just say, hey, what do you want for CeeDee Lamb? They might be willing to sell for like 50% off. Check in with it again. We looked at the numbers with Cooper Rush last year. It was pretty good. DK Metcalf might be a buy low. He had the targets. Other guys here in targeted non-PPR leagues that you got Henderson. I think he's going to get the volume. I think Cordero Patterson is a fun running back here. Non-PPR leagues, Rashad Bateman, interesting guy here. Michael Pittman Jr. I want him everywhere. He's the guy that you need. James Robinson, another fun target here. He's going to get a lot of volume. Nobody's sticking out right now. Terry McLaurin, DeAndre Swift, DJ Chark. That's kind of the majority there. I like Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. Those guys are great in non-PPR leagues too. Mike Williams is a buy low this week, I think. But that's the majority of names I got there. How are we feeling about ETN right now? So that's a good question. With Travis Etienne, he did get more snaps than James Robinson. There's also a couple plays that I think he would wish he'd have back. Trevor Lawrence missed them on one, and then he did kind of fumble one other play. So I think the good news, Ryan, is it wasn't a great game from ETN last week, and he still got what, like 9 PPR points. So I think in a PPR league, you're still feeling fine about him. And again, keep in mind, like that was his first NFL game like that he played. So like he's technically a rookie. 9 points in his first game. I think you're going to probably see his role grow as a receiver. So I'm going to go cautious with it. I think there's a lot to like, and hopefully we see him settle in a little bit more in the future here. So I wouldn't get too worried about ETN at the moment. I still think he's a nice low end RB2. I'll probably be trading away James Robinson or Amari Cooper. Yeah. Well, Cooper's a tough buy. You'd have to have some good receiver depth to roster Cooper. But James Robinson, man, I think I like targeting James Robinson in a non PPR league. But let's go over this Cincinnati Bengals Dallas Cowboys game. Bengals favored to win by almost a touchdown, 44.5 here. You're starting Burrow, you're starting Mixon. Mixon's a top 5 running back this week. Jamar Chase, top 5 receiver this week. T. Higgins got in a good sign for T. Higgins. He got in a limited day at practice, which was nice to see. Nothing else major concerning on the Bengals depth charts or the practice report. So I'm thinking T. Higgins goes. If he plays, you're going to play him. Hayden Hurst, a popular tight end waiver wire pick this week. If you don't want to trust him out there as your tight end one, just leave him on the bench, see what happens. But he looked good last week. I think they might try and find more ways to get him the ball. Tyler Boyd here, just kind of a deep wide receiver 3 flex, more of a PPR guy. Start the Bengals defense, and then we'll monitor these guys here on the bench. On the Dallas side, so I moved CeeDee Lamb to wide receiver 3. I want to find a way to get him in my lineup. You want your best players to play. And again, I think Cooper Rush is better than people give him credit for. Dalton Schultz, I don't really see much change in his value. Again, he's kind of a low depth per target guy. I think Rush will be just fine with him. And then Ezekiel Elliott, I kind of lower him to like a low end RB2, probably like a top 20, top 25 play. We saw his floor last week against a really good run defense. Bengals, not a great rush defense here, but I still think if you're the Cowboys, what's your game plan here? You want to give Zeke the ball? You want to get Lamb the ball? So I think I'm going to go back to the well with Zeke. Say no to the Cowboys defense. I think the Bengals are too hot. They got heated up at the end of that game last week. Pollard, Noah Brown, Cooper Rush, all down here. Moving on to the Houston Texans and the Denver Broncos. Broncos favored to win by 10. It's their home opener, 43.5. You're starting Russ. You're starting Javonte. I got Melvin Gordon in here as a low-end RB2. I think in standard leagues, Melvin Gordon's probably a good play. Cortland Sutton, I have him as a wide receiver 1. I have Jerry Jeudy as a wide receiver 3. Start that Broncos defense. And then if you need a tight end, Albert O, maybe worth keeping on the bench. I don't know if I'm going to start him this week. Texans side of things, Davis Mills, a super flex option. You're starting Brandon Cooks, wide receiver 3 with some upside. And then Rex Burkhead. In PPR leagues, man, like it's dirty. It's not sexy Rexy, but it's dirty Burkhead PPR points here. So probably double-digit PPR points. Say no to the Texans defense. I want to see more Nico Collins. I need to see more Dameon Pierce before I trust him. And then we're going to watch that tight end room to see what filters itself out. The final afternoon game here, Cardinals at the Raiders. Raiders favored to win by 4.5. I think that game actually moved 5.5 here. So Raiders almost 5.5 point favorites here, 51.5 implied. As far as must starts, Cardinals defense is bad and Raiders defense is also pretty bad. So both QBs are top 10 plays this week. You're starting James Conner. Josh Jacobs is a decent RB2. I think they could have some success against the Cardinals' rush defense. Marquise Brown, I have him as a low-end RB1 or wide receiver 1. Devontae Adams is a beast. Darren Waller should find some more room this week here. Zach Ertz should be a fine tight end 1 option as well. And then I'm going to go back to the well with Hunter Renfrow. I know he didn't play well last week. He kind of got shut down. Still saw 6 targets. I think in most games he's going to catch 4 or 5 balls per game. We'll see. Again, this is going to be a high-scoring, fun game. I expect the Raiders to bounce back. It's their home opener. Say no to both defenses in this one. We're never going to start the Cardinals defense. Maybe not even the Raiders, but everything else here, just leave on the bench. I'm going to see if Brandon Bolden is more used as a receiving back. And then keep an eye on Eno Benjamin. He got some volume as a pass catcher and a couple carries. And then Greg Dortch actually operated as their starting slot receiver. So if he has another good game, Rondale Moore misses the game, we'll talk about him next week on the waiver wire. We only got a few more games left here. Let me cover these, and then we'll open it up for questions at the end. So if you guys have questions, continue to fire them up there in the chat. And then after these 3 games, we'll hammer them out. Packers, Bears, Sunday Night Football. Packers favored to win by 9.5, 43 of an over-under here. Rodgers is a low-end QB1. I get it. If you're hesitant, I might start Carson Wentz over Aaron Rodgers. So if you have those questions, fire him up. You're going to start Aaron Jones. You're going to start A.J. Dillon. Robert Tonyan got eased into it last week. He put up a decent floor for tight end points. So if you need a tight end, he could be a streamer for you. I think Lazard's going to play. He's a wide receiver 3 flex. And then kind of like a deep sleeper here, like Christian Watson led their team in wide receiver routes and snaps last week. So he could be a guy that takes one to the house. We saw that first play drop. I'm wondering if they dial up another big play for him. Start the Packers defense at home. They traditionally put up a pretty good game against the Bears. We'll watch for Dobbs, Watkins, and Cobb, but just don't start them yet. I think Dobbs needs to be owned. Like, he looked good. More opportunities as the season progresses. Justin Fields, kind of a fringe QB1, more of a QB2 for Superflex leagues. Darnell Mooney, man, not a great start to the season. I think if you're nervous about him, I'm okay with leaving him on my bench. Let me know if you have Mooney questions. If you have someone that you want to play over Mooney, like I would play Curtis Samuel over Darnell Mooney. I would play maybe even Zay Jones over Darnell Mooney. He needs to prove it to us. David Montgomery, kind of just a low-end RB3. Lost some work to Khalil Herbert. Say no to the Bears defense. I want to see Cole Kmet before I trust him. It's just hard to trust this Bears team. I like Fields, but it's hard to predict here. So we'll move on to the Monday night doubleheader. The Titans at the Bills. That's the early game in this one. Bills favored to win by 10, 50 points total in this one. You're starting Josh Allen. You're starting Stephon Diggs. I think I'm going to be recommending Gabriel Davis as like a start every week here. So he's a wide receiver 3 with some upside for me. Dawson Knox, a tight end streamer. I think you're going to play Devin Singletary as a low-end RB2, a flex play. And then don't sleep on Zach Moss. He was highly used as a passing down back last week. He should be picked up off waivers if you wanted someone on your bench just to watch. If anything happens to Singletary, I think Zach Moss is in for a fun stat line. Start the Bills D. McKenzie, Crowder, Cook. Can't trust him just yet, even though McKenzie scored the touchdown. On the Titans side of things, like Tannehill, probably going to be an ugly game for him. Like the Bills defense just destroyed the Rams and Matt Stafford last week. So Tannehill, a fringe QB2 for Superflex. You got to start Derrick Henry. I know it's a tough matchup, but he'll get his touches. And then the receivers, it's like playing whack-a-mole. The safest one's Kyle Phillips. I think he's the lead target guy this week, the slot receiver for them. He should be picked up in 12-team or deeper leagues. Treylon Burks, interesting flex guy. I like what he did last week. He just needs more playing time and targets. Robert Woods, but I think for the most part, I'm not trusting these guys in my lineups. If I had to start one Titan receiver, it is Kyle Phillips. Say no to the Titans defense, and then we'll watch these guys down here on the bench. And then the final nightcap of Monday night here, the Vikings at the Eagles. I'm excited about this game. This is a potential playoff matchup down the line. Eagles favored to win by 2, 50.5 implied. Must starts in this one. Jalen Hurts, of course, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook. Those are the must-start players in this game. I think Cousins, like if it's between Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers, I'm going Cousins. If it's like Kirk Cousins and Carson Wentz, I'm probably going Carson Wentz. So he's kind of in that 12 to 15 QB range for me. I do like him in super flex leagues, of course. Again, Cook, Jefferson are in our lineups. I'm going to move Irv Smith down to the bench. I need to see it before I believe it. They just kind of eased him in last week, but I'm still holding out hope for him. I'm not dropping him unless you have a better tight end option. Adam Thielen, kind of a nervous flex play, but again, this is going to be a much more competitive game than last week. He should be more involved. Probably don't want to start the Vikings defense. Madison Osborne will monitor from afar. And then the flex play here for the Eagles. I think the Vikings allowed Aaron Jones and Dillon some running room. I think Sanders is a fine RB2, kind of like in a Devin Singletary type tier, top 25 running back. Devonta Smith, man, he might be on the bench here. I think I might change my mind on this. We need to see it before we believe it. A.J. Brown just took over everything in this passing offense, so Devonta Smith might be moved to the bench, and then maybe start the Eagles defense. We'll see here, but we'll monitor that backfield as well. Just super excited about the Monday night doubleheader. And that's it, guys. That's the start sits for week 2. I'm gonna go to the top of the page here and let's open it up to the questions. Let me see where I left off. Jacob Phillips, how was your opinion of Zamir White change after week 1 usage? So the fact that we're gonna pull up one of the best articles that I've found to recap the week 1 usage. So let's pull this up. It's an article by Pro Football Focus. Let's go to that the Raiders Chargers game. Let me look for it real quick here. We'll kind of go over the usage numbers. It's coming here. There's Ravens, Commanders, Chiefs. Here we go. Okay, so here's the Raiders snap counts last week. I mean, they used Josh Jacobs for 35 snaps, Bolden for 16, Amir Abdullah for 7. Routes run, Jacobs 19, Brandon Bolden 11, Abdullah 6. So nothing in here for Zamir White. So to me, this clearly means like the only way he's going to get on the field is if Bolden or Abdullah get hurt. It sounds like they're going to use a 3-man rotation. Like they want Jacobs to be the in between the tackle guy, and then they're going to mix in Bolden and Abdullah as pass catchers. You see, Jacobs had 19 routes run. Bolden and Abdullah combined for about 17, about 23 combined snaps here. So it's kind of like, imagine it as a 50-50 committee here, with Jacobs is getting one whole half of it, and then they're splitting Bolden and Abdullah up in that other 50%, maybe like 30 to 20% towards Bolden. So it's going to be tough for Zamir White to get on the field. Again, this was also a bad game script for the Raiders to run the ball. Like they kind of got their doors blown off by the Chargers early. So they weren't able to establish the run. I think in a game where they're expected to win by about 6 over the Cardinals, we might see Zamir White play a little bit in this one. So I think he's worth a hold. If you have the room to stash him, give him another week. If he doesn't get in the game this week, I think we could probably let him go. Maybe we'll see him later. But at this point, he's purely a Josh Jacobs handcuff, because I don't think they're going to run Brandon Bolden and Amir Abdullah out there. I mean, look at the carries here. They gave Jacobs 10, Bolden 3. They're not really running a number 2 guy here. So he's purely Josh Jacobs handcuff right now. No problem. Thank you guys for hanging out tonight. Monday night game, yeah. I don't think the Bills-Titans game is going to be competitive. I think it's going to be fun for fantasy football, though. We might see on the Titans side, guys, Kyle Phillips. Put that name in the back of your mind. If you have the room to roster in PPR leagues, if you can roster Kyle Phillips going into Monday night, you got a chance to watch the Titans offense. He might be a busy target, and we could be talking about him on the waiver wire. So I like Kyle Phillips there. And it sounds like it's going to be a blowout, Buffalo one-sided victory. CMC versus Barkley. Yeah, this was a fun game as well. It's kind of like a battle of which running back is going to be a top 5 back this year, because CMC kind of disappointed us. I would expect them to try and get him rolling a little bit more this week. I think it was a tough matchup against the Browns last week. But Barkley, man, looking like a top 5, top 10 running back this year. That's going to be a fun game. Dillon or Henderson? I've been kind of answering this as Darrell Henderson is the guy, because, I mean, I love A.J. Dillon. I love Aaron Jones. That's kind of a 50-50 committee at this point. I was actually just looking for this Packer game here. I think it's all the way at the bottom. So, I mean, Aaron Jones, 37 snaps, Dillon, 31. Routes run, Aaron Jones, 29, Dillon, 16. Dillon got more targets by 1. Dillon got more carries by 5. It's almost like a 50-50 split, whereas with Henderson, it's probably more of like a 75 to 80% split towards Hendo. So you're going to start Henderson, I think, this week. But, man, like if you can get A.J. Dillon in there, go ahead and do it. Sutton or Juju? Give me Cortland Sutton against Houston. Again, I mentioned it's a tough matchup for slot receivers. You look at – this is what the Raiders put out. Like Hunter Renfrow was on the field almost just as much as Devontae Adams. 43 routes run, 38 routes run here, 7 targets in the game, and he got shut down. I think it was 3 receptions for 21 yards for Renfrow. So he just kind of got blanketed there. You might see something similar. I think Juju's more talented than Renfrow, but you could see, like a 4 for 40 game from Juju, whereas Sutton's going to cash in on some of those deep balls soon. Thoughts on the Kittle injury? So with George Kittle, I'm nervous about this, man. You don't want a groin injury for your tight end, and especially George Kittle, man. It just seems like every year the last few years, man, it's been something that has derailed his season. We know he's one of the best like all around blocking and receiving tight ends, but you look at the last few years: 14 games, 8 games, 14. Hasn't played a full season since 2018. I think we're going to be lucky if he gets 14 games this year. We know he's a good PPR play, so I think for now, if you can have a backup tight end that get you points, I want him to rest up. Like they should not be forcing him to play week 2 here. They got a winnable game against Seattle. I know he wants to be on the field, but I hope they kind of ease him back in. So patience with Mr. Kittle. Do I trade Curtis Samuel for Julio Jones at PPR? I prefer Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel, man, it wasn't so long ago. Here, let me pull up the numbers here for Curtis Samuel. Because when he was with when Samuel was with the Panthers, Ron Rivera was there. And in his big season where he kind of broke out, 2020, you saw 77 catches, 851 yards, 3 touchdowns, 200 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. He averaged 14.1 PPR points per game, 10. So, I think that's where he's going to kind of pinball between. He's going to be a 10 to 14 point player this year. To me, Julio Jones, he's 33 years old. Samuel's 26. I want the Curtis Samuel side of things. I feel a little bit safer with that. I think Julio Jones has some upside and some brighter days ahead. But man, give me the young. Curtis Samuel just had that. He had that bad injury in 2021. Couldn't get himself back to health. But this usage is very, very promising for Curtis Samuel. 11 targets, 4 rushing attempts. That's kind of what he was doing back in 2020. So hold on to the guy, Curtis Samuel. What are you doing with Damien Harris this week? So Harris, let me actually pull up. Let's go back to here. Let me just find my New England Patriots. I'm looking for the charts here. New England Patriots. Here we go. So Damien Harris, 22 snaps. Montgomery, 20. Ramondre Stevenson, 14. Routes run, 10 to 13. Stevenson only 4. So Harris is they're going to have him run more routes than Stevenson. That's information that's pretty useful. Targets 2 and 2 for each Harris and Stevenson, 4 for Tymo, 9 to 8 carries. So it's kind of like a 50-50 split for carries with Stevenson. But all of a sudden with Tymo on IR, we're getting 20 extra snaps, 13 routes run, 4 targets, and 2 carries. There's some juicy numbers out there, which is I know Damien Harris kind of disappointed last week, but let me just look at this. And that was a game where they were trailing most of it. They're gonna be in a more competitive game, I think, against Pittsburgh, where they probably have a shot to impress. So Damien Harris here, 9 for 48 as a runner, 2 for 10 as a receiver. That's about 8 PPR points here. You take away the 2 catches, that he's got a floor of about 5 to 6 points. So I think I'm comfortable with him in a standard league. I think you can run him out there because there's probably a good chance that the Patriots put up a couple touchdowns in this one. Damien or Michael Carter, full PPR. Easy, Michael Carter. This full PPR, Michael Carter all day. Hines or AJ Green? So Nyheim Hines, he was RB25 last week. 3 attempts for 4 yards, not great, but 6 for 50 as a receiver. He's probably going to settle into that 11, points per game range. And all summer, if you watch my stuff, I mentioned he's had 2 seasons of over 60 catches. This is probably one of those seasons. And you look at those years where he's got 10 to 12 points. He's probably going to pinball in between 10 and 12 points per game. AJ Green, that makes me nervous. AJ Green did not play well last week. Let me see if I can find the Cardinals. There we go. So AJ Green was the wide receiver 3 on the team. They had Greg Dortch playing more than him. Only 3 targets out of 33 passing attempts. It's an uninspiring AJ Green game here. Lazard probably is the best play. If you want the best ceiling, it's Lazard. I would rank them Lazard, Hines, Green. Is it worth starting Flacco as a flex? Flacco as a super flex, I'm fine with it. We saw, the Jets defense last week. The Ravens, they held Flacco in check for most of the game. He did find some numbers later in the game though. He get the touchdown to Tyler Conklin, so he's kind of just purely a volume guy in terms of. Let me see here. What were his final numbers last week? I think he ended up throwing the ball 58 times. Let me just filter to ESPN. Joseph. So he was QB 20, 307 and a touchdown and a pick. I'll give him another touchdown and probably another pick, maybe 300 yards again. So as a flex and super flex league, I guess I'm okay with it. Going game on Sunday takes a lot away from observing. And yeah, man, Jake, I'll send you it kills me to send a fellow competitor this information here, but this is some of the most important information, specifically for like receivers. Like you want a receiver who's going to run a lot of routes, because that just means they're on the field, and when they're throwing the ball, that means they got more opportunity to do that, and then it really helps figure out like which running back is used in which situation. So I'll end up sending you this article. Yeah, George Brittle, my man. Chedwards, thanks for hanging out, my man. I have Lamar Jackson, Justin Jefferson, Mike Williams, Edmonds, J.K. Dobbins, Mark Andrews, Amari Cooper. Should I make this trade? Jefferson for DJ Moore, Judy, Travis, and Swift. What? Wow. So you're sending away JJ for DJ Moore, Judy. Is that Travis Kelce and Swift? Wow. What do you guys think in the comments? I mean, I think you kind of have to do that trade. DJ Moore, Judy, Travis, and Swift for just one player? I mean, Jefferson's great. I mean, he's amazing. But man, you're getting reinforcements at every position here. I mean, DeAndre Swift, you're going to plug him in there as your RB1 over Dobbins. This is one-sided, my man. So Chedwards, as much as we love Justin Jefferson, like he's not going to average 39 PPR points per game. DJ Moore had a rough week 1. Travis Etienne. Okay, so you're getting DJ Moore, Judy, Etienne, and Swift. So I think the value is pretty nice here. Like we don't love DJ, or we don't love Amari Cooper as the flex. So you're upgrading probably Jerry Judy so you're going from Cooper to Judy, and you're going from Jefferson to DJ Moore. So that's kind of a wash, but you get the running back depth here that I think you're looking for, because we can't really depend on Dobbins. I'm not really sure who else your running back is. So I get it. And yeah, it just got a lot closer. So to me, man, that's tough. I kind of want to hold on to Justin Jefferson. Chedwards, are you able to tell me more who's on your bench? Who are we not seeing on your team here that if I feel good about those guys, maybe we hold on to JJ, but it's really close now. Let me see what else we got here. Good afternoon, good evening to Eduardo. How we doing, my man? Should I put Damien Harris on the trade block? I don't think you're going to get any buyers for him, but you can put him on the block and see what happens. I feel pretty good about his opportunity this weekend. Joe Mixon ran hard. He didn't get a touchdown last week, but he did put up some nice numbers against the defense. No TJ Watt. Harris could be in for a nice game. So if he pops this week, then you can maybe put him on the trade block. I think that's what I would do. Hines, Lazard, Robbie Anderson start too. I've been getting a ton of Robbie Anderson questions this week, and I think what happened last weekend was, I mean, the Cleveland Browns have a really good cornerback, a young cornerback in Denzel Ward, and I think he stuck with DJ Moore pretty good, a lot more than people thought he would. So that's kind of what I'm explaining as what happened to DJ Moore last week. In terms of routes run and snaps, they both ran the same amount. It just the targets went to Robbie in this one. DJ Moore only got 4. So I personally would expect those to flip. I think they need to get DJ Moore more involved. I think that's going to be a clear game plan that you see this week. So I'm going to go Hines, Lazard in full PPR. Let me see here. Who do you think I can get in a trade if I trade away Allen Lazard and Dameon Pierce in PPR? Allen Lazard plus Pierce. You're selling low on Dameon Pierce, unfortunately. So, as of today, he just looks like a bench running back. I think you need to hold on to him until his value pops. And again, it's week 1. We don't want to have a knee-jerk reaction and overreaction to it because it's Rex Burkhead. If they're going to continue to pound Rex Burkhead for 17 carries and 6 catches, Dameon Pierce could be the standalone running back 1 in this backfield come October. So to me, if you're going to package the 2 now, Lazard and Dameon Pierce, you're pretty much either going to get a nice wide receiver 3. I mean, if you can get DJ Moore, I think you do it. If you could get a nice running back 2, I think you do it. But that's kind of what you're looking at. But I would hold on to Dameon Pierce. He's an exciting running back. I expect his opportunity to grow. Thoughts on George Pickens? So Pickens, I mean, Pickens is just he's gonna fall victim to an ugly passing game, I think, ultimately here. Let me see if I can find the Steelers here. Let me see where the Steelers are at. So here we go. In terms of snaps, you got 58 snaps for Claypool, 51 for Deontay, 45 for Pickens. So that's nice. And the routes run, I mean, he's on the field running routes just as much as the top-notch guys, but only 3 targets. In a game where there's 33 targets, only 3 to him. He's let's hold on to him for one more week. Give him that chance to pop. Because if he makes a couple big plays this week, then he's worth something. If he goes out and gets another 3 targets, then it's probably time to move on. And yeah, I think Matt is thinking the same thing that I'm doing. So he's got Valdez, Scantling, Garrett Wilson, Winston, Curtis Samuel, Gerald Everett, Jalen Warren, and so the Elijah Mitchell injury is what hurt us. So technically, I mean, I don't know if you have a true running back 2 right now, which is why I'm thinking about doing it, guys. I mean, he's going to get DeAndre Swift. Like, DeAndre Swift is a prize. Like, we were drafting him in the second rounds of draft. DJ Moore was a 3rd-round pick. I think ETN was probably a 4th or a 5th-round pick. And then Judy was like a 6th-round pick too. So he's getting a lot of value for Justin Jefferson. I think you're probably going to see JJ settle in around like 24, 25 points per game in PPR. So, I mean, he's got Lamar. He's going to probably plug in DJ Moore for Justin Jefferson. Mike Williams is there. Edmonds is fine as the RB2, but you can plug in DeAndre Swift there. And then at flex, like at flex, you're looking at ETN or Jerry Jeudy. I think it makes his team better, honestly. So to me, I'm going to do it. People in the chat were kind of mixed reviews, but I do think this trade makes your team more competitive because, I mean, you're starting DJ Moore, you're starting Jeudy, you're starting Swift, and then at the flex position, it's Jeudy versus ETN. So it's probably Jeudy there, but you get some valuable running back pieces here. The person has Joe Mixon, but I don't think you would want to trade him. I mean, yeah, at that point, you'd probably have to do like, you'd have to throw him Jeudy and Travis Etienne back and say, I want DJ Moore, Mixon, and Swift. I think that might be more sexy for you because if you get more Jeudy, Etienne, and Swift, like one of those guys will be on your bench. But if you can consolidate it to just 3 players, Moore, Mixon, and Swift, all of a sudden that really supercharges your team. So play with that. But again, I mean, I think it makes your overall team better because we don't really know what we're getting with J.K. Dobbins when he returns. And you're cashing in on Justin Jefferson, he's a great player, but man, he's not going to do that every week. I mean, 9 for 184, 2 touchdowns, in a PPR format, 39 points per game. If we look at last year, I mean, Cooper Kupp in his best season averaged 25. So, I mean, I think Jefferson's probably going to settle into that 22, 24 points per game mold here. So I think you do it because it just makes your team so much better. Dr. 23, thanks for hanging out. Should I trade Lenny, Tyreek, and trade Lance for Devontae, Lamar, and Lazard? So I think you're getting the best receiver here. Give me Devontae over Tyreek. Give me Lamar over Trey Lance, and then Lazard or Lenny. I mean, that's clearly Lenny. So I think Dr. 23, if you have 2 other good running backs or 2 or 3 really good running backs besides Leonard Fournette, I think you do it. I need more information, though. I need to know who your running backs are before I sign off on it. But you're winning with Devontae and Lamar. I mean, Lamar over Trey Lance, I think that's a significant upgrade. And then Devontae over Tyreek, it's a slight upgrade. Still stud receivers. So I kind of like it where it's looking right now. And I still lost with Jefferson popping out. I think you got to do it, man. You're not going to get too many nice trades like that. If there's a way for you to get Joe Mixon and you just say, yeah, give me, I mean, even if you just took Jeudy, Mixon, Swift, or I think you want DJ Moore, Mixon, Swift. If you can do something like that, that'd be cool too. What should I do with Chase Edmonds and Tua and Freiermuth? Hold on to all of them. I mean, especially like Edmonds in a full PPR, that's what you want him in. If you have Edmonds and anything else, he's not as valuable. With Tua, I don't think he's a QB1 yet. I think he's a really fine QB2 in Superflex leagues. He's not a guy I'm excited about if I just have one QB spot. Again, he was last week he was QB 25, or this was last year. My bad. Let me get back to that. Tua was QB 19. He's probably going to bounce around in 14 to 19 range here. So to me, he's a QB 2. I think Carson Wentz might be a better QB for fantasy this year. And then Freiermuth, like I like Freiermuth. I think he might be the most reliable Pittsburgh Steeler target in terms of tight ends and full PPR. I mean, Freiermuth was tight end 7 last week, 7 for or 5 for 75. So he's rock solid. Henry Jones, Clyde. Oh man, yeah, you got great running back depth. Yeah, you got running back depth here. So I think you do it. I'm assuming you needed some receiver depth here, so that's what's making sense. I think that makes sense. I think I do this trade. I'm going to take Devontae Lamar and Alan Lazard. And what's nice is like Lazard's still a bit of an unknown guy. We could get a really nice pop from him. So I'm going to take that trade. Good evening to Aiden. And yeah, man, we're just rolling, man. We're rolling. People got the questions. I will be going live tomorrow night too. I think I'm going to set the live stream. Again, I'm Central Time. I'm going to set it for 6:30. So we'll go live about 45 minutes before kickoff tomorrow night. PPR, Dylan, JK, is that Jeff Wilson Jr. Hines? It's Dylan, my boy. It's AJ. It's always AJ Dillon. Again, even when J.K. Dobbins finally gets his season debut, I can't put him out there until I see a little bit. So I'm going with Dylan. Higgins, Sutton, Julio, Robbie Anderson. If I had to rank them, I'm going Sutton, Higgins, Julio, Robbie. Higgins is going to play. Like, very encouraging report here. Higgins limited practice on the first day, Wednesday. If he's DNP tomorrow, I'll be a little bit hesitant. Maybe it's a day of rest, but I think he's on track to play. PPR, Kirk, Juju, Bateman, Zay. For full PPR, I want Kirk. He's the lock solid guy here. I trust him the most. Then I'll go Juju. Then I'll go Bateman. Then I'll go Zay. Again, if you guys got any more questions, fire them up in the chat. I'll answer maybe 1 or 2 more here, but then I'm going to get out of here. We got a good 70 plus minutes of live stream content here. So if you guys are new, don't forget to subscribe. We just crossed the 500 mark the other week here, so that was a lot of fun. Yeah, we're going to go live tomorrow night too. What wide receiver do you think I need PPR if I have Lazard, Samuel, Mike Williams, Deontay, Andrew Hopkins? So what wide receiver do you think I need PPR if I have Lazard, Samuel, Mike, Deontay, and DeAndre Hopkins? So I mean, you're lacking like a stud, top 10 wide receiver. I think Mike Williams could be that guy. He's still a little bit boom bust. He needs to kind of even that out. So he's kind of your alpha. I think Deontay Johnson's kind of your rock as your number 2. Like, he's a good target guy here. So Mike and Deontay make a nice duo. I'm probably going to rank Curtis Samuel as your number 3 right now in full PPR because we like the touches and the volume there. Lazard is a nice number 4. So you do have a nice quartet here. And then with Hopkins coming back, maybe one more, maybe go at, if this is full PPR, go get Kyle Phillips, the guy for the Tennessee Titans. He's the rookie slot receiver there. He led the team in targets. He led the team in receptions. He's probably going to get featured again, especially in games where the Titans are losing. Like, he's going to be getting some targets. So I think potentially stash Kyle Phillips. He could be, a 10 to 12 point PPR floor guy. So that's what you're looking for. Go get a Kyle Phillips. Zay Jones is a nice player as well. If you can make a trade, I think I would cash in DeAndre Hopkins if you could. Because we don't know what his reveal is going to be. He's coming back off of the PEDs. He's been absent from the team for 6 weeks, 6 games. If you could flip Hopkins and someone for something else, I think I would do it. But otherwise, before I make any trades in fantasy football, I'm looking at the waiver wire first to see if I can fix my team there first. Because the waiver wire is the most important aspect of fantasy football. Fantasy football is kind of like a 3-legged stool where one leg is the draft. You got the other leg here that's waiver wire, and then you have that other leg that's trades. I guess maybe it's 4 legs because the other decision would be decision making, start sits and things like that. So build your team through the waiver wire. in 2 or 3 weeks, I mean, you could turn a bad receiving core into a strength here just by adding some guys. And again, if you guys wanted here, I'm gonna actually post that that article in the chat here. You guys want to, I mean, this is a reference I'm going to be using all season, this Pro Football Reference link. You want players that are running routes, you want players that are on the field getting snaps and opportunities. Check out that link there. That's the most important thing you can look at. Aiden says Elijah Moore, Juju, Zay, Kyle Phillips. As much as I love all these players, I mean, Elijah's got a tough matchup. Like we just talked about DJ Moore potentially getting stifled by Denzel Ward. Elijah Moore is going to get Denzel Ward this week. So I do like him for 8 to 10 points. I think I'm going to go Juju, Elijah, Kyle Phillips, and then Zay. I still like Zay, but we need to see him do it consistently. Big week for Zay incoming. Trevor feeling the head, and yeah. So me, like I'm Aiden, like I'm if Zay does it again this week, I'm willing to push him up into the wide receiver 3 status because it's been a bouncy career for Zay for the most part here, but it feels like it's here. If you want to be a week ahead, I'm cool with it. But I want to see one more week of 7 to 8 targets, something like that. And yeah, I'm a big Zay guy here. And again, there's that PFF link. I'm going to get out of here, guys. This was a lot of fun tonight. Again, we'll go live tomorrow night. And now that we got the start sits all covered, I'm basically just going to hang out and answer questions. We'll cover the news. Looks like we got one more question from our guy Fabian here. I picked up Carson for Dak for the rest of the season. You did the correct thing here. That was the number 1 QB you could pick up. So Carson Wentz, rest of the season, he might be a top 10, top 12 QB. There's always at least one of those random QBs every year. I think it's Carson Wentz this year. Arguably like the best set of weapons the Commanders have had. I mean, you got Terry, you have Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas looked good. You got 2 really good running backs in the receiving game in Gibson and J.D. McKissick. It looks like a really good opportunity for the Washington Commanders here. And they play Detroit this week. So, Fabian, I like the Carson Wentz pickup here. Yeah, man. Trade Lance QB1 or trade him. Give him one more week, man. They played in a hurricane last week. Essentially, I don't know if we can learn too much. So the fact that he salvaged 10 points with his legs, pretty much, we could see some brighter days. Also, no George Kittle. Let's hold on to him. Again, they play Seattle, home opener against Seattle. I think it could be a much better week for Trey Lance. But anyways, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for your time. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you are new. Check out all the links in the description. Get your start sits information there. And yeah, thanks for your time. Have a good night, guys. Peace.